Welcome back to 10-Minute Prophecy, where we go through the prophecies of Daniel and Revelation in bite-sized chunks. We hope that this journey through Bible prophecy has been enlightening, whether you are new to prophecy or have studied prophecy in the past. As always, if you haven't seen the previous presentations, please watch them as each prophecy builds on each other. As we open Revelation chapter 6, we find that this parallels with the 7 churches of Revelation chapters 2 and 3 and magnifies events of the 7 prophetic churches. Verses 1 and 2 show us the contents of the first seal. Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying with a voice like thunder, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. Here we see that Christ immediately opens the first seal and is shown a white horse. Now, as we will keep in mind that this is a magnification of the 7 churches, we will need to see the identifying marks. The first symbol, a white horse with a rider carrying a bow and wearing a crown, represents the triumph of the gospel during the first century of Christianity. The white horse symbolizes the purity of faith during that era, while the rider's crown and mission to conquer signify the zeal and effectiveness with which the early ministers spread the truth. Some might argue that such warlike imagery doesn't suit the peaceful mission of Christ's followers. However, these symbols vividly capture the bold and aggressive advance of Christianity as it confronted and overcame the vast systems of error and opposition it faced. The rider's mission was boundless, reflecting the gospel's commission to reach the entire world. Verses 3 and 4 show the opening of the second seal, and it states, "When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature saying, 'Come and see.' Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword." One of the most striking aspects of these symbols is the change in the color of the horses, which carries deep meaning. The white horse represents the purity of the gospel in its early days, while the red horse signifies a turning point, a period when that purity began to diminish. Even in Paul's time, the mystery of iniquity was already at work, and by this era, corruption had infiltrated the church. Errors and compromises took hold, worldliness crept in, and the church began forming alliances with political powers. This brought unrest and turmoil, culminating during the reign of Constantine, the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity, around AD 323. This era marked the blending of church and state, as Constantine played a pivotal role by supporting clergy, legislating for the church, and presiding over the Council of Nicaea. Yet it was Constantine, not the gospel, who received credit for dismantling pagan temples, with the state taking glory instead of the church. While he was praised for addressing some issues, Constantine also introduced significant errors and opposed vital truths. Controversies arose, and with each new emperor, clergy vied for political favor to support their doctrines. This period, marked by constant strife, aligns with the prophet's imagery of the rider on the red horse, who was given power to take peace from the earth, so that people would kill one another, and he was given a great sword. By merging with political power, the church took on the authority of the state, abandoning its original spiritual mission. Instead of fostering peace, this union led to division, conflict, and the use of force in matters of faith. Verses 5 and 6 reveal the third seal, and it states, "When he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, 'Come and see.' So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, 'A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine.'" The stark contrast between the black horse and the first white horse is striking, a shift from purity to complete spiritual darkness. It illustrates how quickly the church fell from its early faithfulness into moral decay. This black horse represents a time of deep spiritual corruption, where truth was overshadowed and errors took root. The groundwork laid during the second seal led directly to this dark period. Between Constantine's reign and the rise of the papacy in AD 538, the Church became entangled with the darkest errors and superstitions. Pagan practices merged with Christian traditions, creating a false system of worship that culminated in the establishment of the papacy. During this time, the corrupted system grew rapidly in power and influence, reaching its full and tragic form. The balances symbolized the merging of religion and civil authority, concentrated in a single figure who would exercise executive power over the government while claiming judicial authority in both church and state. This was true of the Roman emperors from Constantine's time until Justinian, who transferred this judicial authority to the Bishop of Rome. The measures of wheat and barley for a penny reflect how the Church became consumed by worldly pursuits, with materialism and the love of money dominating the spirit of the times. People were willing to sacrifice anything for wealth. The oil and the wine represent the spiritual qualities of faith and love, which were at great risk of being damaged by such a pervasive worldly mindset. Historians agree that the Church's prosperity during this era led to widespread corruption, ultimately resulting in the Great Falling Away and the rise of anti-Christian systems. Notice that the voice restricting the amount of wheat for a penny and declaring, "Do not harm the oil and the wine," doesn't come from anyone on earth but from the midst of the four living creatures in heaven. This signifies that even though the earthly shepherds, those who claimed to minister for Christ, neglected the flock, the Lord remained attentive and caring during this period of darkness. The voice from heaven shows that God ensured the spirit of worldliness would not completely overwhelm the Church. Despite the corruption, he preserved the oil and wine, representing the genuine graces of faith and piety, so that Christianity would not be entirely lost. Verses 7 and 8 show us the fourth seal, which states, "When he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature saying, 'Come and see.' So I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. And power was given to them over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth." The pale horse has a strikingly unnatural and eerie color, unlike the white, red and black horses described earlier. Its pale yellowish hue resembles the sickly look of withered plants and symbolizes a troubling condition within the Church. The rider on this horse is named Death, with the grave, Hades, closely following. The level of mortality during this time was so immense it felt as if the dead were haunting the living, following in the wake of this destructive force. This period is linked to the unchecked and oppressive rule of the papacy, starting during AD 538 and lasting until the reformers began revealing the corruption within the papal system. The phrase "and power was given unto them," or him, as noted in some versions, refers to the authority represented by Death on the pale horse, symbolizing the papacy. The fourth part of the earth likely refers to the area under its control. The sword, hunger, death caused by exposure or torture, and wild beasts are metaphors for the methods used to kill its martyrs. Historical estimates suggest as many as 50 million Christians who did not bow the knee to the papacy suffered and died during this time. This concludes our time together. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have enjoyed this nugget of prophecy. Join us next time as we continue on in Revelation chapter 6 with the opening of the fifth seal. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. We look forward to seeing you again soon.